welcome to the channel.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry to hear that you are in pain, but I'm glad that you're here. So do you want to introduce yourself to the people in the chat that may not know who you are?
Yeah, so I am SWAGKAGE. I'm primarily known for making Naruto content. Hopefully, I am planning on streaming like either semi-full-time or pretty much full-time Master Duel when it comes out. I'm super geeked for that.
Yeah, you're super hyped for that, aren't you?
Yeah.
I saw that you were all over the place, bro. The moment it dropped,
Bro.
like I think you posted like 20 tweets in the span of like 4 hours about it.
Yeah, dude, not because it's like it's a whole separate conversation, but Yu-Gi-Oh is gonna be an esport, bro. I'm so
Oh yeah,
geeked.
100%. So if you're gonna be grinding Master Duel, I assume you're gonna need to know some rulings.
Yes.
You were telling me that one of the decks that you played the most was ORCUST, and you're currently playing Tri-Brigade, I think you said?
I've been messing around with a whole lot this format. What I've been playing this format the most is Drytron and Pendulum Magician.
Oh my god, Pendulum, you're a Triff
Yeah,
fanboy.
yeah, Pendulum.
So you told me that you really liked ORCUST as well, and
Yeah.
I decided to bring ORCUST rulings to the table. So for this first ruling,
Yeah.
it's going to be a ruling with Girsu, the ORCUST Mech Knight. So Girsu has an effect where it can foolish a monster from deck to the graveyard, but it also has an additional condition on it that says if there are 2 or more cards in this card's column, treat this card as a tuner this turn.
Yeah.
So if I use that effect of Girsu, I activate it in a column where there are 2 other cards, I send an ORCUST card from the deck to the graveyard. Afterwards, my Girsu is treated as a tuner. After
Yes.
that effect resolves, if my opponent activates the effect of Infinite Impermanence targeting my Girsu, once the Infinite Impermanence resolves, is my Girsu still considered to be a tuner, or is it no longer a tuner?
So
Sound it out. Walk me through your thoughts. I want to know.
So the I think that Girsu remains a tuner because it's not like but
The questioning, the cogs are turning.
yeah. I've actually never run into this before because you never get Girsu in a card or in a column with 2 cards and then also want to summon like Needle Fiber or whatever. But yeah, sure. I will go with I think he is still a tuner. I think it's like a passive thing that just applies.
You're off to a very excellent start. The Girsu is still treated as a tuner in this instance. So you're currently 1 for 1. Very, very good. There are certain attributes that a card has. I shouldn't use the word attributes. Certain like specialties that a card might have, like if it changes level, changes attribute, changes type, changes its stats, becomes a tuner, things like that. And certain things do stay and certain things are erased if they are self-applied and then the effect is negated. The kind of thing that will stay the same even if they get negated is something like a name change, type and attribute change. Becoming a tuner is indeed one of those things. So you got that correct. The Girsu is still a tuner, and we can move on to the second ruling.
Sick.
So this next ruling is with ORCUST Symbol Skeleton, which
That's
is
my boy.
your boy. So in this instance, if I have Symbol Skeleton in the graveyard and an ORCUST Nightmare, and I banish the Symbol Skeleton, targeting the ORCUST Nightmare to special summon it, and my opponent chains DD Crow targets the ORCUST Nightmare. How does the chain resolve, and am I still locked into dark monsters after this chain resolves?
I believe the chain resolves like this. DD Crow banishes the ORCUST Nightmare, so Symbol Skeleton whiffs, and you're still locked into dark monsters because it's an also effect, so they apply at the same time.
He knows! Oh my god, very, very good. Yeah, the Symbol Skeleton, you got it on the dot, 100%. The Symbol Skeleton will not summon the ORCUST Nightmare. Because the ORCUST Nightmare is no longer the target that's in the graveyard, it has to remain the same target in the grave, and it still applies the restriction because it is indeed an also effect, which means you don't have to successfully do A in order for B to apply.
This has happened to me a lot. It's the bane of my existence getting DD Crow'd. I play a lot of graveyard decks, actually, so I hate that.
Okay, so you're currently 2 for 2. Can we get to 3 for 3? That would be absolutely insane. So in this instance, I control a Galatea, and my opponent controls a Decode Talker in these columns that you see here. If my opponent attacks with the Decode Talker onto my Galatea, will my Galatea be destroyed by battle here?
No, because she's linked, right?
Okay, so what defines a monster being linked?
there is a big difference between linked and co-linked. Co-linked is where the arrows are like mutually pointing at each other. Linked just means that it's pointing at something or something is pointing at it.
Very good job. Very, very good job. A lot of people don't actually know that. A lot of people get confused with a card being linked. Currently 3 for 3 on ORCUST rulings, my dude.
Rip a whole lot of people's channel points. Anybody who didn't believe in me, you're
The
out.
doubters are in shambles, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Now we're going to talk about a card that was very popular during ORCUST format and is still very popular to this day. It is not an ORCUST card per se, but we're going to see how you think ORCUST cards interact with Nibiru, the Primal Being. So I have a Babel face up, I have a Nibiru in my hand, and I have an ORCUST Nightmare in the grave. My opponent special summons 5 times in the turn, and then here, I activate the effect of the Nibiru, the Primal Being in my hand, and then as Chainlink 2, use the ORCUST Nightmare targeting one of my opponent's monsters.
Okay.
How does this chain resolve?
So I've actually done this to somebody before.
Oh, he knows!
Yeah. So what's going to happen here is the ORCUST Nightmare is going to resolve, and it's going to send whatever you want to the graveyard. And then the Nibiru is going to tribute the whole field, but it's not going to summon itself. So you get to keep it for later, but you don't get to use it again in the same turn since it's a once per turn.
Yo, he knows the text. He knows the text. You're currently 4 for 4. Jesus.
Let's go.
Dude, I should have brought my A game, man. I feel like I'm slipping a little bit. So here, I'm going to be bringing up another of a little bit of a more neat interaction, this time with Longgirsu. So say my opponent has a monster that is pointed to by my Longgirsu. And I activate the effect of my Longgirsu targeting 2 of my banished ORCUST monsters. And then my opponent chains Burial from a different dimension. And they return only one of those 2 banished monsters to the graveyard, but not both of them.
Okay.
So how does this chain resolve?
I think what happens is if Longgirsu doesn't shuffle all of the targets back, then the then effect whiffs because the conditions for the then effect, like you have to meet all of the things laid out in the text beforehand, before you can do anything in the then effect. And if you only shuffle back one of the targets, then you haven't shuffled them both back, so then like everything after that in the effect text is basically null, right?
Okay, so unfortunately for the first time you have got one of the rulings incorrect. So the way the then text works when a card says shuffle them into the deck, as long as the Longgirsu successfully shuffles at least one card, it will still be able to apply the effect that is after the then. Now we're going to talk about probably the best boss monster this deck has in Archetype, which is my boy Longgirsu. So here in this instance, I'm going to have a Galatea on board, and my opponent's going to have a Solemn Strike set. So here, I'm going to attempt to Xyz summon Longgirsu, and my opponent is going to Solemn Strike my Longgirsu. After they Solemn Strike the summon of the Longgirsu, am I allowed to attempt to XYZ summon another Longgirsu this turn?
So since Solemn Strike negates the summon, you can, because you essentially never summoned the first one to begin with, right?
You're asking, right? Like your grasp, like Coder. Am I right? Coder. Please tell me I'm correct.
That's what I'm going with. That is what I am going to
Final
say.
answer, you are allowed to attempt to summon another?
Yes.
Well, you would be correct. So this was changed during the April 1st rules revision. In the OCG, basically, they changed this, and these rules aren't 100% confirmed to be in the TCG, but we've been playing with these new rules ever since they've been out in the OCG, and these new rules have basically removed the concept of attempted summons.
Nice.
Currently 5 for 6. Yo, not bad at all. I have 2 others that are left. You're currently 5 for 6, and we have 2 more, and these are probably the 2 hardest ones that I've had set up. So we're going to get into it with the very first one being a damage step ruling. I don't know how familiar you are with the beast that is the damage step. So in this instance, I have an Orchestrated Babel on my field, and I have an ORCUST Nightmare in the graveyard. My opponent moves to the battle phase and attacks my Galatea. In the damage step, am I allowed to activate the effect of the ORCUST Nightmare targeting my Galatea?
So since it modifies attack, you can, right?
I find it so funny how, like, right?
Yeah,
like
you're
looking for confirmation.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with. You can, because you're allowed to activate effects that basically, during damage step specifically, it's only stuff that directly modifies attack or defense or whatever that you can activate. So yeah, I'm going with you can.
Yeah, you are correct. You are allowed to activate the effect of ORCUST Nightmare in the damage step. This one was a little bit complicated for some Yu-Gi-Oh players, specifically because Nightmare not being an effect that is usually a quick effect. More often than not, Yu-Gi-Oh players would like kind of write that out as being like, okay, now it's a quick effect or whatever, and they were kind of confused about this. So yeah, you are allowed to use ORCUST Nightmare, specifically only if you have Babel, because otherwise it's not a quick effect and you can't use it. But yes, in this instance, you are allowed to use ORCUST Nightmare in the battle phase. 6 for 7. Yeah. Are we trying to go 7 for 8? We have one last one, and it's probably it's a doozy. It's a good one.
Let's see what we got here.
In this instance, the question that you're going to be asked is if you have a banished orchestrated Babel and you use the effect of Paleozoic Leoncolia to return the Babel from banished to the graveyard, are you then allowed to activate the effect of orchestrated Babel in your graveyard that says during the main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, add this card to your hand. Are you allowed to activate that effect of orchestrated Babel?
Oh, so this depends entirely on whether or not something being returned from the banished zone to the graveyard counts as being sent to the graveyard. So let me think if I know of any other similar examples.
I mean, you're on the right track. Like you've established where the crux of the question is, and now you just have to, decipher it in your head and come to a conclusion about whether or not that would fulfill the except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard for Babel.
Yeah, because it sounds like really weird to say that cards can be sent from the banish zone to the graveyard, but I am going to say yes, you can.
Final answer?
Final answer, yes.
Well, SWAGKAGE, congratulations on a 7 out of 8
Let's
score.
Go!
You are allowed to activate the orchestrated Babel because when a card is returned from banished to the graveyard, it is not considered or treated as having been sent to the graveyard. A 7 out of 8 score, highest score I've ever gotten on this show.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, well, hopefully this gets my name out there beyond the people who know me for Naruto content. I think that I am a fairly decent Yu-Gi-Oh player. If you want to check out my Yu-Gi-Oh channel, it is Roobindale, Roobindale.
I appreciate you coming on. It was really a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I'm actually surprised by this. Pleasantly surprised, in all honesty.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
All right, man. Well, I'll see you around. Thanks so much for coming on. This was a ton of fun. And I wish you luck when Master Duel comes out, dude.
Thanks a bunch, buddy. Yeah, likewise.
Right. So anyways, guys, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, we do this a lot over at my Twitch channel. Come check us out at twitch.tv/DiscDecoder. But for you guys, I'm going to see you guys in the next video. So have a good one. Peace out, y'all. Peace.